On today's episode of Aqua Kids,
we get a detailed look at humpback whales. So, ready to make a difference?
Building a better planet starts with you.
Aqua kids, traveling around the world, going where we've never been before, having fun and so much more, learning from our friends of the sea, saving them is up to you and me. Aqua kids.
Hey everybody at home, and welcome to another great episode of Aqua Kids. I'm Drew.
and I'm Katie. On today's episode of Aqua Kids, we find out just how big humpback whales can get.
Plus, we'll learn about how whale counts can track humpback populations and the dangers humpbacks face from entanglement in rope and fishing nets.
Well, I'm ready to get started. Are you?
All right, let's go.
Hey guys, I'm here at Sandy Beach on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. I'm about to meet up with Patty from the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary, where we're going to learn all about humpback whales. So let's go.
So Patty, how big are humpback whales?
Yeah, the humpback whales are humongous.
Yeah.
They are about 45 feet long, an adult is. They weigh about 45 tons.
Oh my
The
gosh.
female tends to be bigger than the male, obviously, because she's going to carry the babies and go through that process. You know, a baby humpback whale, when it's born, is about 15 feet, if you can imagine, and they weigh about 15 tons. I think of these poor mothers giving birth to these 15-ton babies. They have a very large tail that when you're out watching the whales in the water, you'll see the tails flapping back and forth. The tail is about a third the size of the body, and it has a pattern on it that is kind of like your fingerprints. That's the sign of who you are. Well, a whale has a pattern on the tail. Every pattern is different on every whale, and that's how the scientists recognize what the whales are.
It's really cool.
Yeah, they're really awesome animals.
Hey Patty,
Hi.
so what are you telling the kids?
Well, we're talking about whales here and how big they are. You know, they're 45 feet long, but
Wow.
one thing I want to talk about here is the actual mouth of the whale. The humpback whale, it's a baleen whale instead of a toothed whale, so it can't chomp on big things. The mouth is about a third of the size of the body.
Wow, big
it
mouth.
Well, it has a tongue that is the size of like a Volkswagen Bug, a small car, if you can imagine.
Oh, I can't.
This huge tongue they absorb in their mouth, and their mouth opens up really, really wide as they feed. And what they have instead of teeth is called baleen, and this is an example of the baleen. They have these plates. It's almost like, feel it, it's almost like a fingernail.
Yeah.
And they have little hairs on the side of them, and they hang down from the side of the mouth. So on the side of the mouth of the whale, you'd have these plates hanging down. There's about 200 of these plates
Oh my
in a whale's
gosh.
mouth, and they can be up to like 6 feet long. Remember that tongue is as big as a car. And what happens when they feed, well, just a second, let's take a step back here. The back of the throat is about this big. This represents the esophagus. You all have an esophagus where the food goes in your mouth and it goes down a tube to your stomach. Well, this is as big as the esophagus and the back of the throat of the whale. So what does
Wow.
that tell you about what the whale eats?
They don't eat a lot of big food.
They don't eat big food at all. They eat small things like krill and like shrimp and little herring, but nothing big. And remember, they don't have teeth, so they can't come up and chomp on you at all. They use their baleen. And what happens is when they feed, and the feeding happens when they're up in Alaska, not here in Hawaii, where there's lots and lots of this little food up there for them. And the whales will swim around in a circle. And there'll be about 5 or 6 of them in a group. And they swim around and around counterclockwise. And while they're doing that, they're howling. Here in Hawaii, they sing songs, but up there it's like a ooh through like a ghostly howl. And they said in the olden days that the fishermen would be out there in their metal boats at night, sleeping, and they'd hear this howling, and they didn't know they could hear it come up through the water into the boats. But they howl and they go around and around in a circle, and they're making a bubble net. And what happens is they're blowing bubbles up the side, and they're going around and around, and they're stirring up all of this krill, these little tiny shrimp, and they're collecting them all in a circle. And they make this circle of bubbles you see up here on the surface. Once they make this huge circle, they come up out of the water with their mouths wide open, and they're taking in all this water and all this food. And you can see the fish jumping out of the mouth as they're doing this.
Oh my God.
And then they sink back down. And what happens is they take that huge tongue, they close the mouth, they take that huge tongue, and it rubs over all these little hairs. These little hairs are what traps the krill and the little food that they've collected.
So what happens to the bigger fish that they swirl up?
They would spit those out because they're not going to fit down the throat.
Spit them out?
Yeah, they just spit them out, and they're not getting the big things. All it is the little stuff that's swimming around in the circle there.
So you said they're in Alaska. When do the whales come down to Hawaii?
The whales start coming down to Hawaii in about November, October to November, and they stay in Hawaii until about April. And when they're in Hawaii, they are finding a mate, they are mating, the females that are pregnant are giving birth, they're raising the babies till they're big enough so that they can swim back up to Alaska, and then in about April to May, they start swimming back up to Alaska, and they go back and feed. So while here in Hawaii, they don't eat at all. So
Oh
think
my
about that
gosh.
mother that has to produce that milk, and that mother is producing about 100 gallons of milk a day to feed the baby whales.
Patty, what is that?
That's an example of a tail of a whale. Remember, the whale is about 45 feet long, and the tail itself is about 15 feet wide. It's a third of the length of the body, and it has a muscle that's connected to it that connects it to the body where all the power comes. Now, you guys have seen them breach where they jump all the way out of the water, and it's that muscle in the tail that lifts them out of the water. Notice the white markings on this whale tail? Those are like your fingerprints on your fingers that identify who you are, and every whale is different. So when the researchers are out there, they're taking pictures of the tails, not easy to do when the boat's going up and down and the whale's going in and out, but they take a picture of that and they record that, and that's how they identify, and they're able to count how many whales they see is by how many different patterns that they see.
So you said this helps to identify the whales and count them. So about how many whales do you find out there?
Well, they're estimating there's about 12,000 that are coming down to Hawaii these
Wow.
days. And what they do is take a picture of them, they then record those on a database. And the scientists sit there and go through every one of those images, gives it a number, and then from those, and every number, every picture is different, and they're able to then estimate or count how many different whales there actually are.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Man, can you just imagine how much they eat?
Yeah, Drew, you might not want to take a female humpback whale out on a date.
Better be an all-you-can-eat buffet, otherwise I'm not picking up that check.
When we come back, we meet the folks who help with the monitoring and identification process of humpback whales.
Aqua Kids presents another Aqua Kids Pop Quiz. Do you know which sea creature has the largest mouth? And we're not talking about underwater gossip. Is it A, the whale shark, B, the bowhead whale, or C, the giant clam? Don't shoot your mouth off yet. I'll be back with the answer after the break. We're back with the answer to today's Aqua Kids Pop Quiz. Did you guess which aquatic animal has the biggest mouth in the sea? It's B, the bowhead whale. Bowhead whales average about 60 feet long and have a 20-foot mouth. Wow, they must have really long dentist appointments. Welcome back to Aqua Kids. Let's head back to the beach and learn about what's being done to monitor and identify humpback whales.
Hey everyone, we're here at Sandy Beach on the south shore of Oahu in Hawaii, and we're going to be working with the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary. Unfortunately, the whales aren't here today because they've all gone to Alaska for the summer.
But we are going to meet up with the staff and figure out what a marine life sanctuary is and how they monitor humpback whale populations.
It sounds really neat. Want to meet up with Chris and find out more?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris. I'm the Sanctuary Ocean Count Coordinator for the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary, and I'm here today to teach you how to do the Sanctuary Ocean Count project.
Nice to meet you. Hey Chris.
Thanks for joining us. Hi.
So could you tell us exactly what a National Marine Life Sanctuary is?
A National Marine Sanctuary is actually a special place in our country. There's 14 different marine protected areas around the country, and they protect areas of national significance. Here in Hawaii, the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary protects the humpback whale and its habitat here.
Well, I noticed that the humpback whales aren't out there today. When are they here?
They actually visit Hawaiian waters in the wintertime between November through May, and the peak of the season is January, February, and March. And this is one of the places that we watch whales when they visit Hawaiian waters.
And is that because the water's colder in the winter months?
Well, they actually travel here from colder waters, nutrient-rich waters where they're eating, to our warm waters around the Hawaiian Islands where they mate, calf, and nurse their young.
Oh.
Why was the sanctuary established?
Humpback whales are actually an endangered species, and they've been protected since the 1970s when the Endangered Species Act started. Here in Hawaii, they're protected by state wildlife laws, federal laws, including the Endangered Species Act and the Marine Mammal Protection Act. Hawaii is the only state in the United States where humpbacks mate, calf, and nurse, so it makes it a very special place, and that's why the sanctuary was established here.
So what do you guys do here?
Well, we do a lot of different things to get the community involved in watching humpback whales, such as the Sanctuary Ocean Count Project. And that's where we involve the community in a monitoring effort to learn about Hawaii's humpback whales. We use data sheets such as this, called a behavior sheet, to learn about the humpbacks from the shoreline. And what we're doing is stationing volunteers at locations such as this, teaching them the basics about humpback whales, how to identify the difference between adults and calves, and a little bit about the different behaviors that you see whales do here in the Hawaiian Islands. We see blows when they come to the surface to breathe. The blow can actually be 10 to 20 feet in height, so it's really easy to help us find the humpbacks from the shore. And then we see all types of slaps. They slap their tails, their pec fins, their heads, and even their peduncle, which is...
Peduncle? That's a funny name.
It is a funny name. It's one of the best ones to teach everyone about whales. They always laugh, and it's actually the strongest muscle in the animal kingdom. It's what propels the humpback whale out of the water when it does the other behavior, the breach, which is probably the most fascinating of the humpback whale behaviors. These animals actually weigh 45 tons, so you can think of how strong that muscle is to be able to allow the animal to jump out of the water.
Do you need special training to be a volunteer?
No, actually, anyone is invited to participate, and we train them everything they need to know the morning of the count. We have site leaders that are assigned to each location that have received prior training from the sanctuary, and they're ready and willing to teach people about humpback whales, their behavior, their biology, and how to collect data on the information sheets.
Wow, Katie, that whale identification process sounds like a ton of work.
It sure is, Drew, but this way they can track these animals' movements all over the world.
Coming up next, we find out about marine debris and the damaging effect it has on humpback whales. Don't go away. Aqua Kids will be right back. Welcome back to Aqua Kids. Katie and the rest of the crew are back on the beach, where they learn how marine debris entangles and threatens humpback whales.
Hey guys, today we're here at Sandy Beach on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, where we're going to be learning about how marine debris is affecting the humpback whales.
Yeah, we're going to meet up with Paul from the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary and figure out what they're doing to help solve this problem.
Yeah, well, let's go meet up with Paul and see what he has in store for us.
All right, let's go.
Hey guys, I'm Paul. I'm with the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary.
Hey Paul, so what are we doing today?
Yeah, I was going to demonstrate some techniques we use to disentangle humpback whales. There's a couple of threats to humpback whales from human interactions, and two of them are entanglement in marine debris and fishing gear, and also vessel strikes from running into boats or interactions with boats.
So how do you find out about an injured whale? Do you actually go out and search for them, or do you get a call?
That's a good question. Actually, we get calls from the public who let us know that they see a whale that's entangled, and then we respond to them. They either let the Coast Guard know or us know, and we respond.
So how do you respond?
Yeah, we actually go out in boats and respond with an inflatable life raft, of all things, to get close to the whales and not injure them, but get close enough to disentangle them.
Do you ever go in the water?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. We don't actually get in the water, and the reason why is our primary concern, in addition to rescuing the whale, is human safety, the safety of the rescuers.
So it looks like you have a lot of equipment here. What exactly do you guys do with it?
Yeah, we actually have adopted techniques from the whaling days when whalers actually used to harpoon whales. We actually taken some of those techniques so that we can use them to safely approach and slow down the whales. For instance, we use big buoys like this to actually attach to the whale and slow them down so that we can approach closer and safely disentangle it.
Does that hurt the whale in any way?
No, it doesn't. We try to use tools and techniques that are not damaging to the whale.
And I can imagine that it would still kind of freak them out having all of this equipment and people around them.
Yeah, so we have to be very careful when we approach whales so that we don't disturb them, so they're not a danger to the rescuers.
Right.
So how many entangled whales do you find every year?
Yeah, they estimate there's about 300,000 cetaceans, whales, and dolphins that get entangled every year. And so that's worldwide.
Okay.
And so those include whales and dolphins that get entangled in fishing gear, fish nets, and things like that.
So what type of marine debris do whales become entangled in?
Yeah, they get entangled in marine debris, also fishing gear. For instance, right here, you have some buoys that a whale got entangled in. And you can see this was actually probably some kind of fish trap or crab pot that this buoy was floating on the surface, and the crab pot was down at the bottom of the ocean, and this long line, over 100 feet, actually entangled the whale.
So what are some of the things that happen when a whale gets entangled?
Yeah, when a whale gets entangled in gear like this and lines like this could be life-threatening. In fact, it could prevent them from feeding if it gets wrapped up in their mouth, or it could prevent them from swimming correctly. So this is definitely something we want to do to prevent them from getting entangled and remove the gear. This buoy right here is actually what we use to track the whale. If, for instance, we can't rescue it that moment because it's late in the afternoon or the seas are rough, we actually attach this tag to the whale. And there's actually a satellite transmitter in here. And how we actually attach it to the whale is by using this grappling hook. We actually throw this grappling hook on the line that the whale is trailing, the one that it's entangled in, and try to snag that gear. And so we throw it, snag that gear, and then attach this buoy to it. And the whale can pull this along, and we're able to follow it with the satellite transmitter. So when we're actually approaching a whale and trying to disentangle it, we actually use long poles such as this one. This one's actually a short one, but the long ones we use are actually maybe twice as long, 16 feet long. So if you can imagine reaching out from the end of your life raft and trying to reach out and disentangle that whale. And what this is actually is a knife. It's a knife we adapted from some of the whaling tools, and so you can see that blade is on the inside edge, so it won't actually hurt the whale, but it will help cut the rope. And so if we're lucky, we can actually place the knife exactly where it needs to be, and then pull the pole away, and the knife is still attached to the whale. And so what happens is, just from the drag of our boat and the buoys behind us, it'll slowly cut away the rope. And we're a safe distance away from the whale, and maybe 5 minutes, however long it takes, the whale will eventually be cut free if we put the knife in the right spot.
So is there anything people can do to help prevent this from happening?
Yeah, we actually ask the public to help us out. If they actually see a whale that's entangled, to report it right away to the Coast Guard or to NOAA and to let us know. It's very important that we keep track of these whales. Otherwise, if we lose sight of them, there's no way we can find them again.
Right.
It's also really important that, while we are trying to disentangle this particular whale, we're actually trying to learn from this. Why do whales get entangled in general? And we're trying to solve that problem globally and not just save the individual whale.
It was really scary to see how humpback whales have to face dangers of tons of marine pollution every day.
It's a worldwide problem and really heartbreaking to see.
It really is. But when Aqua Kids continues, we learn about sustainable seafood.
Welcome back to Aqua Kids. If the fish populations of the world are to survive, we need to start buying sustainably. Let's check in with Katie at one of Honolulu's most popular restaurants.
We're here tonight at Nico's Pier 38 in Honolulu, Hawaii, where we're gonna get to go in the back and see what's cooking.
Ideas and vision is positive.
Hi, Greg.
Hi.
Greg's the executive chef here at Nico's. Can you tell us about some of the traditional dishes you serve here?
Our signature dish here is our furikakiahi that we get. We get it straight from our auction block right across, not far away. It's a local sustainable fish that's not fish caught by nets or anything. It's a long line caught fish. Totally sustainable. We serve it furikakiahi seared on our flat top right over there. It's also served with white rice or brown rice, steamed vegetables, and our cilantro dip sauce.
Could we get a look at it?
Yeah, sure. Right over there.
This
is our furikake ahi right here that we have, that we serve.
Sustainable and like. Wow, that looks delicious.
This is the final product?
Yes, this is what you'd get here.
Looks really good.
So why is serving sustainable fish something that you value here?
Because it's something that you can retain here in Hawaii. Yeah, this is locally caught, local fish. You know, we use everything that's here. We don't have to think about getting it from the mainland or somewhere else. This is all local in our waters here.
And is that similar with the other dishes you serve here?
Yes, it is.
We're out of time for today's show. You showed us a lot about humpback whales today, Katie.
Well, I'm glad we could, Drew. I'm also glad we could spread the word about the dangers of marine debris and how this problem must be solved if humpbacks are to survive.
Not to mention the importance of buying sustainable fish.
When we all do our part, we keep the planet green and blue.
And so can you.
So visit our website for cool eco tips.
And fun links to show you how we can keep the world and the water
A great place to play and explore.
And we'll see you next time on Aqua Kids.
Kids.